Okay, welcome everybody. I'm so excited to be here today and share with you this amazing open source technology that is being called the source field. It is the energy modality that I work with. It is something that's been coming through and continually downloading and upgrading. And I'm really excited to be in this field with all of you. Hi, Serge. Welcome. So I am in Ojai, California. I just moved here about a week and a half ago. These beautiful paintings behind me are done by my new roomie, Aurora. They are hand painted, and she is an incredible galactic walk-in. So the energy here is quite everything. Okay, so we're just breathing a little bit, connecting in with the energy that is beginning to come in, connecting in with the love that we're all feeling for each other, for ourselves, for the planet. Just taking a deep breath as we sink into this place together. Hi, Raquel. So maybe we do a little check-in, and I can just go by the order of everyone that I see here. So Antoinette, I am unmuting you. You're welcome to say hi.
Hey everybody. I guess I'm excited for this last modality to see what it's all about.
Awesome. You're welcome to also share, anything that you're moving through right now in life, any energies that you like to resolve, things that you're wanting to move forward with. You're welcome to share them here. You're not obligated to.
Well, nothing that I can think of right now, but it has been a rough time. It has been really rough, but I made it through. I guess it's almost over. I don't know, but I'm working it out.
What's rough?
I guess just me not handling myself the way I thought that I would in situations. I haven't been observing as much. I've been very active, and I don't really regret any of it, but I definitely have been acting out of character, I would say. Yeah.
Fascinating.
And I never it's been a little hard to just trust the flow of things and not insert myself. So it has been a little hard to do that lately, and to let go of this, it's been hard.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Catherine.
Hello, everybody. I feel the love. That was really beautiful. Your singing really puts me in a really lovely zone. So thank you for that. I've been in a really an interesting place. It's quite precious. It's been a little bit emotional, but it's very healing, and I feel like there's a lot just letting go every day. I mean, just so much is just letting go. So it's an interesting place to be, because I was going through quite a time there for a bit. But I've found my footing, and I'm quite proud of myself, actually. So I'm just kind of reframing everything right now, and realizing that I'm in the right place right now, and I can see how I'm going to just start to flourish. So So it's quite lovely. Thank you for asking. Yay.
Okay, Kelly. I'm unmuting you. Okay, let's go with Lori first. Hi, Lori.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I think there's quite a lot going on. So I think around the month of April, I kind of regained my financial power, which is yes, really good. But then I'm still adjusting to it. Like, you have to remain flexible at the same time. Not since you have your power, you can say no anytime, but you can't be too rigid. There's quite, I don't know, there's quite a delicate balance that I need to find in between that. And that's something really exciting. And I feel like I'm like an in-between phase. It seems like something's emerging, something bigger. I don't know what it is, but it's still in the phase of emerging. At the same time, I'm still purging. So it's quite like unsettling, but exciting because you don't know what's going on, but something big's coming. Yeah. So there's quite a lot of fear at the same time because of the purge. I know it's related to my past experience, but those kind of fears are not like, huge things. It's like bits and pieces that I didn't realize that I have fear in until I was triggered. So I don't know. I think I'm kind of like very, very close to the end of the final purge. I don't know, but you might never know what happens.
Brilliant. You look like you've gone through a lot of healing, and I want to say that I really see that in your energy, and I'm really proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I've been doing a lot of inner work. Yes.
All right, let's see. Catherine. Kelly. Hi.
Hi, I'm back. I got kicked off.
Welcome back.
I had to go back for the link and stuff. Oh my goodness. I've had a lot happening. I had the most fantastic ayahuasca ceremony to date. 2 Saturdays ago. This was a new shaman that I had never experienced before, and this particular shaman he has grown up with the medicine. He's a tribesman. He's the leader of his tribe in the Amazon, called the Kuntanawa. He was appointed to be the leader of his tribe at 7 years old. So his depth with the medicine is it was a totally different experience than I've ever had. That's the best way I can experience. Like I feel the Kuntanawa people around me, and I've never had that before. I had a really deep experience with the Great Mother archetype. Just knowing that a mother's love, it doesn't come with anything else but love. There's no judgment. There's no there's nothing else with it. It's pure love. It's pure acceptance. And it just feels like being hugged all the time. So what I'm working through, I had a dream last night. working through, so let me back up a little bit. I had a session with Mitchie. I don't remember when it was. It was a while ago. And he told me that there was shame lodged in my root chakra, and that was something that I would need to work on clearing myself. So I had a dream last night about talking to my mother about sex and sexuality and more private matters of my own sexuality. And I remember in the dream, well, I woke up feeling it, like a sense of shame coming from my mother. So that's what I'm working through right now, is releasing the shame that has been projected upon me by a past partner, probably past partners, and my mother. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
We're so happy that we get to support you through that process, and we're really excited for you to.
Thank you.
Azra.
Hello, Z. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to start and explore this energy, the source energy. And I've been doing a lot of healing, a lot of purging, a lot of sexual healing. It's happening with my partner, like loving my body that I never loved before. Yes, it's just like the best I ever been. That's how I feel. And working like my mental body, I have a lot of mental chatter. Like these voices are amplified, and I feel I'm on this like threshold, and there's something that is like trying to confuse or whatever. I don't know what really exactly what's happening, but it's kind of intense. It gets really intense. So I'm trying to meditate to get within myself and be in this quiet space, to connect with the being. And yes, so much still to work on, but super excited to step up more and do this work. Super excited.
You're great, Azra. I'm looking forward to diving into some of those things.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's see. Margarita, you're unmuted.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. What's the question?
How are you doing?
Oh, okay, that's an easy one. I can answer that.
That you're wanting to work through. If you're feeling called to share in this group setting, you're welcome to.
Cool. I'm doing well. I'm really conscious of the emotional wave, and then it just won't stop, right? Like you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. And you just think like, okay, I'm ready to just be up. I'm ready to just be up here. And it doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. You go back down, fuck, and there it goes. You're zooming back up again. So that's been, fun experience. Again, remembering the wave and just allowing myself to be a little more free as I flow through the wave. And I'm like working on dreaming a bigger dream. I'm a 6'2", Kelly. Like I feel like in some ways I've actually arrived at a place that I had always dreamed myself to be. Like as far as my personal life, it was a long time of like this yearning and longing, and now it's kind of like it's real. Like I am actually living that dream that I had dreamt when I was young. And uh, now I'm kind of like, okay, what's next? Like I gotta come up with a bigger dream. And I have like a bazillion ideas of things I could change, and ways I could affect the world, and ways in which I could change my personal life. Um, and yeah, just kind of like trying to work out how that is all going to manifest. It should be interesting. And when Kelly was talking about connecting with the Great Mother, I definitely have been feeling this like really strong link with Mama Earth. And I think a lot of the pain that I'm experiencing physically, because I'm dealing with a bunch of like random medical and health shit, um, it's very much related to how the Earth is doing. Like the Earth is also unwell in some ways, and needs healing, and so do I. So we match in that way. And then on the other hand, like absolutely perfect and divine, and you know, eternal and multidimensional. So definitely definitely there's so many levels. And then you're like, oh, I can kind of like see the big picture, and then whoom, like you're back. Oh, right, here I am in my life. And some things are not perfect and not ideal and not how I would want them to be. And and that's part of the beauty of life too, is that it's not perfect, and and really there's very little chance of it being perfectly perfect. I think there's a quote, I don't know who said it, but it was something like, you know, if everything is perfect, then you're probably dead. I don't know who said it. I gotta look that up.
That's a tough one to accept as a 6.
Right? It is. It is. But I think that it's true a lot. Like you're striving for this kind of like perfection, this kind of like purity of happiness, that I don't think is sustainable, because the emotional wave is real. You're going up and down.
You're quite the philosopher, Margarita.
Oh, thank you, darling.
Let's see here. Philip and Mignon. I think you guys are on the same account, so you can both say hi.
Yes, we are in the same account. Well, I will start. And I'll just say that because we've been embroiled in this moving process for the past, well, gosh, almost a year, but most dramatically in the last 2 to 3 months, we've been packing and we've been getting rid of stuff, and we've been having, and then finally loading the trucks and coming down with 2 different trucks, and with some people helping, and just a lot of physical activity. So my whole spiritual life has sort of been shifted a bit to the side, except I've been practicing some of my self-healing techniques for all the aches and pains that follow all the physical work. So now that we're back to a little bit more of a normal life for us, I am feeling the energies a lot here where we're now living. And I don't know if it's because the temperature is so high. We've been having 90-degree temperatures the last few days, or what exactly, but I have felt a lot of energy around me and around us here. The other thing that I wanted to share is that we took you up, Z, on your recommendation of getting the Sophia Code book. And I found myself totally spellbound by the book and am very much looking forward to reading some more of it. So that's kind of my current status. I don't really have any special issues otherwise that I'm aware of to share. So Mignon, you can take it from there.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I have enough issues for both of us. So this move has been so absorbing, and like I'm sorry that we've sort of dropped off the face of the earth with this course, but I feel since about March, I feel removed from everything, removed from myself, from my spirituality. I don't know what else to say, but it's not fun. So I think it's really a good thing that we're here tonight and participating. So that's it for me.
It's nice to see everyone here again together that we've been involved with. And previously, before we did drop off the face of the earth.
It's so good to hear from you guys.
Thanks.
It's great to reconnect with you.
Yeah.
Serge. Hi.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Ah, great. Hi, Xi. Hi, everyone. So I'm very excited to be with Xi again and with the tribe as well, feeling the love. And speaking about myself, I feel like I need to catch up quite a lot of stuff from the school. I'm fascinated by human design. Really, this is something that is taking a lot of my attention and my time. I'm also feeling quite a lot the emotional wave. I'm learning it, but still I'm lacking of clarity. This is something that is following me from a long time. It's like I experience a lack of understanding of what the spiritual work is, and I really would like to get a better idea of it. It's probably a part of the journey, but I'm still there. I understood that I need to clear some stuff with my sexual energy. I need to learn to love more myself. So this is my understanding so far, and I really would like to get also better understanding of what is happening in the dream world. And so the dream wave, the astral world is something that is calling me for a long time, but I'm also still a baby there, and I really would like to go there. So in some words, I think that is what I can say about myself right now.
Thanks for sharing with us. Raquel, I am unmuting you.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you, Z. This is so great. I want to acknowledge Michelle and Kevon for a second. It's been such a beautiful journey so far. I've learned so much. And like Serge says, it's so fascinating to get to know about human design and just watch Michelle and Kevon, face off in a way of each other and how excited and passionate they are about the subject. And that comes through in every session that, you know, we've had with them. So, you know, it's been really great just going through this journey, learning as we go. But yeah, it's such a vast and deep subject, and you know, I'm really happy to know that there's so much more to learn, and you know, and it'll keep going as we go along, and dig deeper into this subject and practice it in our lives. And believe me, I have a lot to practice from where I'm at. I live in a community, so you know, I practice every day with the people that I live with, and so it's just been so great to see, you know, myself within myself and how I react with people in different circumstances, and practicing what I've learned through this program. And I'm excited for what's to come with Z, and happy to interact with all of you. And as far as what's been happening in my life, it's been a lot of just working through a lot of layers, I guess, emotionally, like you guys have been talking about, you know, purging and transmuting, and just working through all of those challenges and energies that have been surfacing, you know. So it's been up and down, like, you know, like Margarita said as well, you know, one day you're up and one day you're down, and you know, you're floating on this cloud and then you come crashing down the next day. So but no, it's been a learning curve all the way through, and I'm really fascinated by everything that I've learned on this journey with all of you. So thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Raquel. I'm gonna unmute you, Michelle and KB. You say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Kayvon's in the other room right now, actually. But it's really great hearing from everyone. One of the greatest things hearing from everyone is I really can feel in my body how confident I feel that regardless of, you know, the challenges people are sharing, like, I really feel confident in everybody's ability to find their self-leadership despite these extreme times. So that feels really good, just hearing you all speak. And you know, I'm checking in and I'm like, yep, everybody's like in their process, but even with the challenges, I know you're going to be able to anchor yourselves. And, you know, remember that might not happen instantly. Might have to, you know, like Antoinette says, we might have to kind of act outside of our self-led self sometimes. But, you know, it's part of the process. Oh, now Kayvon is now hovering over my back. Let me see if I take this out. Does it sound okay?
Yep.
Okay. So, do you want to be on the video? You want to be on video? So I don't want to lose my train of thought because I don't want to take up too much time talking about it. Yeah, so just basically it feels really good as I hear you all speaking that, you know, I feel like you guys have applied things, and it can be messy sometimes, but you guys are really handling it. The other thing I wanted to say about the emotional wave, because whether you're emotionally defined or not, we all are affected by the emotional wave because it's part of the species. The trick is to not identify. That's the thing. And the way you can do that lovingly is with IFS. So you're not your extreme angry part, and you're not your extreme depressed part, and you're not the suicidal part, and you're not the frightened part. So you're like witnessing it and you're engaging with it, but just at any low point or high point or in between point, just knowing that that's not your identity. And that can be really challenging, especially when there's crazy Schumann resonance things going on and everybody's going through all this stuff. So, you know, if you're in a partnership or you have roommates or you work around other people, you know, everyone can be kind of banging into each other and exacerbating things. But I just really feel confident in all of you. So it's great just sitting here and feeling that way. And it makes me glad that we do the IFS first, because now I don't have any feeling of like concern or anxiety about Z doing super expansive work with you, because whatever gets triggered, you're going to be fine. So that feels good. Do you want to say anything?
Um, just hello, and I love you all, and I'm so proud of all of y'all. Like just hearing you guys speak and just seeing you guys' energy after all of the ups and downs and the twists and turns and the expansions, and I'm just super proud of everybody. And Z, you are, you know, your voice is amazing and your energy is amazing. And I'm just so proud of everybody because this is the first time that we have a third person in our school, you know, anchoring in the Trinity energy. So this is like literally locking in you guys' energetic light body field, all of the knowledge. And after this journey, you know what I mean? It's like, watch out, you know, like, so I just thank you all. Just thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you for being here, you know, and just going in on your enlightenment and on your transformations. So, you know, like Michelle said, it's been crazy these last couple of days with the energy. Oh my goodness, I was just knocked out like right before this. So it's been real. So just hold on tight. You know, the vibration, the earth is spinning faster and faster. Everything is increasing. So hold on. Trigger City. Yes. that's where we're at. Triggercity.com. So all of the work that we've been doing up until now, this is why you guys has been doing this, and now you guys are gonna be leading the way for everybody, you know. So love you, love you, love you.
Brilliant. I see Chris has just logged on here. Let's just see if he wants to say hi. Chris, you're muted.
Hello? Hello?
Hey.
Hey. I'm driving in the car right now. How are you doing?
Not sure if operating a vehicle in this field is safe or unsafe. We're happy that you're here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Well, wonderful. We'll get started then. So I invite everyone to just take a deep breath. I've been sharing this teachings about advanced light work for a little while, and I find that most of the time it's not really about the words that I'm saying. It's about this energy transmission, this field that we're creating that I think we're beginning to feel. And that I feel that when I speak these words, most of the time is actually we're distracting the mind. We're giving the mind a job to do. We're telling the mind what is happening. And what's really happening is the transformation of vibrations and of energy. And so you'll find that I'll speak and then I'll pause or speak really slowly. And sometimes it might sound odd, but just understand that there is an energetic transference occurring. And of course, the highest intention of this field is for all beings to access greater aspects of our source connected self, to access this higher self in the self leadership. And so most of what this transmission brings through is access of our higher sense perceptions, access to the perception of reality that is structured by light and sound. So we're moving into the construction and the structure of reality itself, and how consciousness creates and exists and relates to the reality. So we are really exploring this relationship between our consciousness, our energy, and the reality. And of course, we have been exploring this in the human design. I feel that's why the human design is so cool, because it's really functioning on an energetic level. It's teaching us how our energy interacts with the whole reality for the most easy interaction. So we are creating what we are wanting and intending from ourself. So I like to think of our energy body as a pyramid, where the root chakra and the sacral chakra are on the base of the pyramid and have to be the most stable in order for the higher senses to open. This is the foundations that we have of what reality is, so that we are grounded as we're interfacing and experiencing some of these higher dimensional realities and aspects of self. The reason why we have to be grounded can be seen in a lot of mental illness situations where, people are paranoid or see entities, and actually what they're perceiving could be part of the truth. But because they're ungrounded and there's fear and unresolved trauma, they can very easily be spiraled into a delusion or a reality that's not grounded or based in what is real. So there is reality, and the reality is composed of different densities of light, the 3D being the most dense. This is the one that we feel in our physical body. And in our physical body, we have access to all the dimensions of light leading back into the sound field and back to source. Each being, each life form is connected to the stream of life, to the beginning of time. And we on Earth as humans have been experiencing amnesia, of forgetting of who we are and what we're doing here. And so this is also why it's so amazing that we started with the IFS, which really addresses these traumas and wounds we might have that keeps our pyramid unstable in the ground level, and gives us the tools to heal and navigate through those triggers, so we can always stay in a place of centeredness and groundedness, which is a prerequisite and the basis of beginning to explore the higher dimensions. I feel that my area of expertise that is coming through in these transmissions is really about embodiment, is the embodiment of higher aspects of our true self. So the first exercise that we're going to do, and this is kind of going to be the theme of the week, I invite everyone to scrap every concept of who we think we are, who we're becoming, what we think we like, any structures of self that we have created in this life up to this point, in this now. I am inviting you to just allow it to dissolve. And this could just be a passive process. You don't have to yank any parts out. It's just a process of releasing and relaxing into the presence. And the reason why I'm inviting us to do this now is that this part of the process for the next 3 months is about embodiment of our true self, embodiment of our higher selves. So we can think of this process even as a walk-in process. For those of you who've never heard of the word walk-in, it's a thing that occurs when a different soul decides to walk into a body, and the soul that was in the body decides to leave, and there's an exchange that happens where the original soul of the body kind of dies and goes back to heaven, and a different soul that wants to have a life on earth that does not have a body, they can agree to have the second soul live in the body. So what we're proposing here is not that process. We're going to use it as a metaphor to walk in a higher aspect version of ourselves. This version of ourself already exists. It is a part of ourself that has access to our past life memories and skills, our other dimensional parts of ourself that has different knowledge and wisdom that's been gathered in different lifetimes or different parallel existences. It is the original intention when your being was created, when this body was created for you. The reason why we're inviting us to dissolve any concepts of who we are is because when we are born on earth, a lot of us, went to public school, had Muggle parents, got a 3D job, and then all of these descriptions of self that are actually not who we are gets put on us and gets stuck and structured in our energy body. And that also includes ancestral structures and geometries of our self that are not actually our true self. So when we consciously dissolve or consciously intend to move into a place that's free of those past versions of self, then it makes it easier for us to actually receive the truth of who we are. So again, this is not an active process. It's not something that we necessarily do. It's more something that our self is inspired to run. It's like an energy current that's present. It's not exactly something that we're actively doing. I see this as kind of what people would call the ego or the false self or the lower self or the not self. These are the words that we've been using to explore this concept. And I personally perceive it as distorted geometries in our light body. I find that it makes everything much easier to perceive things in this way, in the way of pure energy and the shapes of consciousness. And again, your conscious mind does not even have to know what I'm talking about when I say these words. It is kind of a transmission that as we move deeper into accessing energy, we'll naturally come to perceive these things. Because the reality is composed of energy, of consciousness, and of geometries that this consciousness and energy flows through, like this. And we think that this work is so powerful because on the earth, in the many therapies that are present, it could take decades for people to move through their traumas again and again and again, and it never gets to the root because there's distortions in the physical body or the energy body. But if we can just access the energy and restore the distortions and traumas in the energy, then we don't have to do 20 years of psychotherapy. And I find that this way of working is really works really well with the IFS process. It feels like the IFS is for the inner children to understand this process and is more of a emotional and soulful way of interacting with our human. And this energetic way of accessing these traumas is another layer or a higher dimensional tool that we can use to accelerate these processes. Michelle says, when the inner children are healed, they naturally access higher levels of light work. And this is so true. These are inner children. I find that most children really already live according to their designs. And it's because when we're first born into the body, there's no false structures, identities that tie us into any distortions of ourself. And so the soul creates the design, right? The soul decides the design that it's going to walk into. And so children already have access to who they really are because they just got here and they are who they are. And so they also would have access to our superpowers, and accessing our inner children thus is a great shortcut to accessing all of these higher levels of our self. So while this is happening, while I'm speaking, I'm also tuning into the energy field of everyone that's present. And so sometimes if I trail off, it's because a part of my consciousness has spotted something that we're working through. Okay. And I find that these transmissions are always different for groups of people, for different groups of people, because it's really just the speed of which we're moving into a higher vibration. So as we're speaking, as whatever is needed for the mind to move through different frequencies, we are actually experiencing a shift in the frequencies of the field and in ourself. And say that there's like a point A, which is where we are now, and a point B, which is where we are intending to be in 3 months. I mean, personally, I would love for all of us to be inspired to access being in the 7D state of consciousness or beyond. And so it's beautiful that we have so much time, because usually I only get to spend like 3 days with groups of people, and to have 3 months together in this field, I'm really looking forward to seeing, the sorts of things that can happen here. So I invite everyone to move their awareness to 8 to 12 inches above your head. And I just invite you to imagine that this is actually a part of your body, that instead of this being the top of your head, that the top of your head is actually sensorially about 12 inches above your head. And so when we include bigger parts of ourselves as our body, we gain access and information to them. So we're shifting our awareness to include our soul star chakra as a part of ourself, which kind of gives us access to the energy that is there. So our soul star chakra is one that is connected to the sun and the galactic center, and the source is one that has access into those realms. It's also, I experience it also as like a layer of the aura. So I start here, it makes sense because then I can access this easiest from my crown, but it also goes around our body. So we'll just start by feeling into that place 8 to 12 inches above our head. And this is also, in my experience, where our soul frequency is. The access point to the other aspects of ourself that exist beyond 3D. And you might feel like you're at home. You might feel a great familiarity because this frequency is the real you. Is you on a spirit soul level. And we'll just light this chakra up here. You might feel some tension. You might even feel pain in your head. This is when we know that our soul star chakra and our crown, our third eye are not fully integrated. And it's okay. We have to allow the energy to move through at the speed that is optimal for our body, for our soul. And just breathe. So the reason why this body of work has been decided to be called advanced light work is not really because I'm super full of myself and think I'm really advanced, but actually because there's a lot of hippieing around going on in the world right now, because there's a lot of forces that are trying to distract people as much as possible. And so when I saw a vision of this body of work being called advanced light work, what I actually saw was that we're no longer running around the world giving everybody hugs and saying love and light. And this is a great thing to do. In fact, I encourage you to do that. But it can't be the only thing that we do, especially if we're here to be multi-dimensional superheroes and genetic path cutters. And so advanced light work is just becoming consciously aware of the light filament, the structures and geometries of light that construct the dimensional realms, including the 3D, so we can begin to use our psychic capabilities and superpowers to accelerate this whole new earth business. It is the exploration of what a lot of beings are calling the pole shift, but the confusion is that the pole shift is not happening from north to south, but it's happening from inside to outside, and outside to inside. We're opening a direct communication between our consciousness and the reality, which actually is just our natural state of being. And I think it's actually the next class that we're going to really explore the false matrix. But I think we all pretty much know what I'm talking about when I say those words. And a lot of people say that, you know, we shouldn't talk about the bad things. We shouldn't talk about the dark things. If we just don't pay any attention to it, then it's just going to disappear. And I think that that concept is true on some level, that if we add our emotional creative energy to it, then we're going to be co-creating it. But imagine if a burglar was coming into your house. If you just sat in your closet and said, I'm just going to pretend he's not here, do you think that would do anything? And so we're saying perhaps we can gain the capability to project our consciousness into the burglar's brain and say, hey, it's a really bad idea to be here, man. You better get out of here. And then the burglar actually receiving the message and getting out of your house. So in that case, acknowledging that there's a burglar in your house and being empowered and not afraid and trusting in your superpowers solves the issue. So we're in the business of creating a new earth, are we? And this is an opportunity for us to experience our mastery as souls. That this creation is the real inside job, but the inside and the outside are one. And so when we speak of creating a new earth, it starts with our own life. It starts with shifting the vibrations of ourself, of our belief systems, of who we think we are and what we think we're doing here. We are reconstructing our whole reality from the inside as creator beings. And here we recognize all of the indoctrination that we have received as humans. Indoctrination by the church and by the school system. That we are not in control of our own energy. These lies, sorts of things. Whew. So here we are seeding this recognition that we are divine creator beings, and actually in the cosmic hierarchy, humans are, let's say, in some ways more advanced than angels. And the reason is that we have a body. And I know this is kind of the stark opposite of how a lot of us are feeling. Having to pray to the angels, asking for these beings for help, asking for these beings for protection. And yes, there are beings that are here to help us, but the true empowerment, once we recognize that we have angelic consciousness inside us, we are angels, just with physical bodies. When we begin to embody that truth, we reclaim our power as the creator beings that we are, and then we reclaim our power to create the optimal reality for ourselves, and in that we create an optimal reality for everyone. And so again, these are words of what is happening. The energy is a transmission from my embodiment of this angelic consciousness as a reflection of the same angelic technology that you are, these beautiful vessels, these beautiful bodies, these beautiful energy and consciousness that is in you. We are this oneness. And it's this gentle energy that is coming through, that is sweeping. I think the greatest trauma that everybody has is the degradation of our spirituality. And that can happen in a lot of ways through, sexual trauma, and through the false education system that makes us feel like we have to compete and work really hard to be good, that we aren't perfect already. These kinds of subtle mind control that we've all experienced in the false matrix, they kind of sedify, condense in our energy body. And this energy is sweeping and dissolving these tensions so that we're actually allowing our true self to be, because it's already here. We're just clearing away what is hindering its expression. And it is in our intention here that by the end of our time together, that you will be able to anchor this field of energy and share it with others. And in simpler terms, is really just being so connected to the oneness of the true organic consciousness, the Gaian living grid of life. That everything you come in contact with, every person that you speak to, will be magnetized towards it. Because this is true life source energy. And all of life is thirsty for it. Kelly says, I stopped watching TV 10 years ago. I felt like my consciousness was being hijacked. And Kelly, you're exactly right. This is a war on consciousness, which is why activating our higher sense perceptions and accessing more parts of our divine consciousness is the antidote. I just learned the word of my main psychic capability from Aurora. She says it's called, oh shit, crap, I can't remember now. Redacting. Is that the right word? Redact. So to redact is to be able to project our consciousness into another's consciousness, or the collective's consciousness. Is almost like this antenna from our third eye is active, and when we have access to this psychic communication device, we're able to actually become real doctors in the healing of collective consciousness, both individually and collectively, and on a planetary level, even on a galactic level. So this is essentially what we are learning to do. And I know that this work really works, not just through the personal sessions that we do. You know, if a few of you have experienced sessions where you can feel the energy move in, but also really on a collective level. And, you know, I get sent on these missions. Some of you know I recently was at an Ariana Grande concert, and actually Kayvon was working with me over Facebook Messenger. And the work that we were able to do in the reality was palpable, to the point where I think a week later, Ariana had an interview and she was like, I don't know about doing concerts. It's not really good for my mental health. Like, it seemed like she was kind of shifting a little. And of course, what I observed at that concert was also this consciousness hijacking, mind control technology that is not even necessarily technological in the sense that we understand it, like this computer and the screen. Of course, screens are used to mind control people, but a lot of it is also just energy magic, right? Consciousness magic. And so the way that she was singing all these distorted values surrounding sexuality is actually a part of a program. Of course, we see it in the world, but, you know, there comes to a point when it really solidifies and integrates that this is happening, that there were beings on Earth that were purposely mind controlling and feeding these viruses into our consciousness. We're going to go into these viruses in great detail in the next class. It also recently occurred to me that if we were in the Hogwarts cosmology, which we totally are becoming, am I still, can you hear me now? Okay. How interesting. So in the next classes, we're going to go into these viruses in detail. Because again, you know, when we are aware of what they are, we can release our defenses. Kind of like if a bacteria gets into our body, our white blood cells encounter it. They're like, oh, this is not supposed to be here. And then they kill it and get rid of it, because otherwise we won't be healthy. Similarly, we have viruses that can come into our consciousness, you know, false belief systems and fears, sometimes entities and implants and these sorts of things. So we're activating our psychic immunity and learning how to dissolve and clear and heal these things, both in ourselves and thus for our family and our communities. I think that we're going to be exploring timelines a little bit, because the forgetting of time and our amnesia that we experience of forgetting, you know, the timelines, the histories of Earth. It's part of the mind control. And that when we learn to access a higher sense perceptions to choose futures and to actively work with timelines, we're also greatly accelerating the collective manifestation of the reality. And so a lot of this question gets asked a lot, where people ask, like, how do I know if I'm supposed to be out there doing something in the 3D, like going to a protest or going to plant trees? How do I know when I'm supposed to do that and when I need to just be doing my work from the energy realms? And I think that this clarity comes once we're really clear and connected to ourself. Once there's an integration of our presence, then it's abundantly clear what we're supposed to be doing in the 3D. I think also that if it brings you joy, if it's something that you're really excited about, and if it's really anchored in kind of the highest frequency of yourself, like if you can be expressing yourself as your true self in the 3D scenario, then that would be something that's totally good to do. And, you know, it wasn't like I was using my mind to think, okay, Ariana's doing something weird, I'm going to go to her concert and do something about it. It was very much like Spirit was like, the concert's happening in 3 hours, buy a ticket now and go. Now, I think partly that's an expression of my splenic decision-making process. So it might be different for other people who are not splenic. But just the same, it is processes that are really inspired and come with a lot of synchronicity and don't really come from the mind. It's more like there's nothing to figure out in the mind, except the mind is actually receiving intel and information, processing the input from our senses. So I don't want to move too fast. Just let me know if you feel like I'm moving too fast. And also let me know if you have any specific questions. We are going to do an activation today. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so I invite everyone to place out your hands like this. And really straighten the fingers and feel the energy shooting out through your fingertips. Okay. So the reality is made of fibers of light. This is known in pretty much all shamanic traditions across the planet. You know, when you partake in plant medicine, you see them because there's DMT being excreted and you begin to access, you know, the finer realities that are present, but we can always access these lines of energy. And we're activating from the soul star down into the body, removing this energy through your hands. We're activating, running our energy through our hands, our creation, right? This is the tools that we have to create things. You can see that it's literally an emanation from our heart chakra and our throat chakra. When we move energy out of these two combined chakras, we get hands. So as we're moving through this energetic activation, we're also shifting ourself into the mode of creating and expressing from our true self, our heart, our motivation, our true motivation of service, of evolution. This is the first part of the activation. It's going to make more sense later. This is the entrance way to magic, right? Like magic is just this intrinsic connection, awareness of the reality, the invisible, this intrinsic connection between ourself and the reality, and our influence, our ability to navigate and feel connected and have response from the reality. Okay, when you feel like the energy has completed running through your body, you're welcome to put your hands down or keep them up, whatever you feel. It's getting hot. Whew. So one of the first things that happen as we're blowing past through the amnesia film is that we're going to experience like all of the collective trauma that has happened. Because the collective trauma in a lot of ways is the amnesia. It is the thing that's keeping humans from remembering anything. I mean, there's more to it than just that, but this is one of the things that happens. Another reason why it happens is because, you know, you've lived your life as this individual, and then once you move into collective consciousness, there is a lot of suffering in the world. Like, people are having not a good time. They're slaves. They're enslaved by negative aliens. People are not having a good time, a lot of people. And when you move into the collective field, you're going to feel that. And it's important to just keep moving outwards, because we're not really effective workers. We're not effective healers until we're totally connected into the source. If we have emotional charge, like anger, resentment, frustration, if we're motivated by those emotions, if we're empowered by those emotions while we're doing work, as opposed to, you know, unconditional love and acceptance and peace in recognition of those difficult things, it's much more effective to work with the latter. And sometimes if you are working from, you know, anger and things, you can get entangled in it and start embodying those traumas. It's really hot now. Does anyone have any questions so far? You can just unmute yourself if you do.
This is Kelly. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. This is the things that you're saying is very much in alignment with what my chiropractor was telling me today, that, you know, we were talking about the energy that is lodged in my root, and I was very clearly seeing in my process today, as I was, you know, moving through the emotions and just seeing internally, that shame it's lodged in me, but it's not mine. It's from my lineage, and it's from my partner's lineage, and it's lodged in me so that I have the power as a planetary healer to clear it. And I'm not clearing it just for me. I'm clearing it for the planetary consciousness.
Thank you so much for sharing, Kelly. Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing that. It does get easier. I think that really inspires me to just remind everyone that's here in this room right now that you are all very special beings to be here on this journey with me right now in this moment in time space. The fact that you have found your way here right now really means that you're probably one of the most powerful beings on the planet. And we're really here to make a difference. Like, this is true. And I know that there has been parts of you that has been whispering this in your ear, and for whatever reason, you know, it might be like, oh, it can't be me. You know, I don't know anything. But the truth is, you have made the commitment to be here. You know, some people are like drinking. It's like partying, going to the bar, you know. So many people are like enjoying or whatever they think it is. And like for some reason you have found yourself to be here right now. And this information is like, well, it's the information, right? Like, and it's like, I'm just the reflection that you manifested in your reality to be telling you this through a screen right now. Like, hey, you're an angel. You got superpowers. Came here with a job to do. It's gonna be fun. It is fun.
Daisy,
Hi.
when you were talking about children, I kept thinking about my own children, and they're pretty young. You know, they're like 2.5, 4.5. But I can already see, I can already notice like the culture impacting them, like making them, you know, feel like their feelings are not okay, like they're maybe they're like expressing themselves too much, and it's so painful for me as their mom to see that. Like I feel like it's triggering, or maybe it's bringing to light like all the ways in which I've been wounded and programmed, like all these like little like paper cuts of like just like not being allowed to be myself, be my real self. And I remember that many years ago, it was like 20 years ago, I was so sure that I could heal with my hands. I just had this like understanding. I was like, I think I can do this. And I like remembered it now, how I got absolutely like no support or any like, I mean, the opposite of support, right? Like people were kind of like laughing at me when I would say that, and how that shut it off for me, you know, like it totally worked in that, like the programming totally worked in that. I forgot about it, right? And like only now am I like in the past, you know, year or so am I like starting to remember and be like, wait a minute. I do have all these gifts, and I'm sort of not honoring them because of the false matrix, and kind of like buying into that false matrix. So really useful. to notice.
Woohoo! That's awesome. I'm so happy for you. When you were saying that, it reminded me of this extremely fascinating thing that has been happening. I think when I was still in Peru, it was like in January, these 3 star babies started coming to talk to me. They like really want to be here on Earth. And this first one, it's going to be a boy, and he's like, hey, like, I really want to come, like, here are my superpowers. And he's like materializing things, he's like, look at me. He's got wings, and he's just like, poof, and then like something will like grow out of the thin air. And what it inspired, it's like that, just even communicating with that being, I don't know if, let's see. Okay. What is inspiring in me is actually just recognizing this need to create a space for those children to really be able to express their gifts. And then it got me thinking about how Kayvon's always talking about, creating this superhero school, and how I feel like this is something that is beyond just like a school, but like more of like a planetary imprinting of like what humans are capable of, and that these new kids that are coming through like really need us to like create that environment. Now, that being said, I feel like your kids, they are advanced beings. They're definitely sampling the false matrix, because they're like, yeah, like we got the antidotes. Because I feel like I've actually seen this happen where I've met, like, for example, this guy that just created this festival that I was at in California. He's from Andromeda too, and we're a star family. And he's, I think, in his late 50s, early 60s. And like his operating system is hardly functional, but he's extremely perceptive. But you wouldn't know it because he's so awkward. He's like the most awkward guy you've ever seen. He's just like, really spazzy and stressed out all the time. And you wouldn't know that he's like, he builds these incredible portals out of sacred geometry, like massive installations that you sit inside, and you're like literally like where he says, he's like, this is the Alcyon portal, and you're like in the Pleiades when you're sitting inside the portal. So he's like really connected and in that way, but just like also really weird and stressed out all the time. And when I did a session for him, I recognized that like the earlier generation starseeds, they came to like we didn't really know what was down here. We kind of like could feel the energy of what was down here, but we didn't really know the specifics of what was going on. So the first responders, the first starseeds that came here, were totally the first eyes on the ground, and they were the ones that were able to actually feed back information so that the future starseeds would have the right antiviral. So by the time I got here in 1994, like he's already been here for like 30, 40 years, and like basically all of these things, and not just him, but hundreds and thousands of early indigos, this was kind of their job, was like their recon. They were shooting this information so that antiviral could be created. So that's why I didn't fall asleep for that long. I dropped out of high school. I was like awake even when I was in high school, just because like these DNA codes were already wired in me, because we knew what we were going to come into. And so the starseeds that are being born now have even more of that, right? Because our higher dimensional aspects are busy. Yes, the early indigos got hit hard. Yeah. And so don't worry about them. They're totally good. They're just trying it out for size, They're like, oh, let's figure out this Earth business for a second. But with that being said, I do want to bring in this collective manifestation in, because I feel like having Hogwarts would be like amazing. You're here right now, like in this cool moment in time for NESLA. Like, I mean, personally, I feel like I'm also reflecting what like being embodied in my mission looks like, because like I'm not at all doubtful about who I am and what I'm capable of, not from an egoic place, because I don't need to be egoic about it, because I already know. And the reason why I say that is because, like, it doesn't actually do anyone any good to play small, right? Like, I'm not hurting any of your feelings by, like, saying, hey, like, I'm a powerful being and I'm here to, like, make billions of dollars and, like, create a new world for everybody. And, like, it is us that deserve this power and this money. And, you know, it's also through our collaboration that we can really start to make that happen, right? And it's not just like a one-dimensional thing where we're learning, like, we're the teachers, you're the students, here's what you're learning, but really it's the process of all of us figuring out what our gifts are, so we can start to weave together. These are not things like I feel like, especially right now, I'm feeling like there's a big wave of collaboration happening, that, like, we've already done everything we could do on our own, and that in order to bring grounded results onto the earth, that we need to work together, right? And the not working together and keeping people separate because, oh, you know, like, this person has money, this person doesn't have money, and, like, you know, these are the viruses that are programs that keep people from truly working together. And if we're walking into New Earth, if we're going to talk about deprogramming, we're not really talking about it from, like, an intellectual, airy-fairy kind of way. We're, like, talking about, like, how do we do this, like, for real, right? And so this is an experience that I've been experiencing for the past maybe few months. Has been really strong, where I think the words that came through were radical togetherness. Radical togetherness isn't like togetherness when you get something out of it and when it feels good, and then when it doesn't feel good, you're like, okay, like, I'm out. Radical togetherness is like recognizing who your soul family are, and then really, like, creating that family bond that maybe we didn't experience in our biological families, right? Like, it's like there's, like, there's a spectrum that you can sit on with this. Like, for example, I'm here in this house and we're like, okay, like, let's do an experiment. Like, we really have to trust each other, because there are people in the world who are vampires who will just, like, take advantage of people who are giving. But these are, like, at some point we're going to have to put that aside and, like, create an experience where we can actually trust and, like, freely give and take, allow the energy to flow freely. And this is scary because the world's full of vampires, right? But it's still important for us to create that imprint, create that structure, create that blueprint, so that energy is available, so that more and more people could act in that way. And so what I'm just inviting, what I'm seeding here, is recognizing that, like, it's like this school that is created. It's like on the 3D, it's a school. But if we're to expand our idea of, like, if we're just to, like, destruct any programming at all, like, there's just then literally a group of people here, right? And that part, like, you know, some of us have skills in one thing. Like, Michelle is very skilled at shamanic healing, and this is a skill that, you know, all of us needed. And that Kayvon has a skill of, you know, human design and these things, and these are skills that we needed. And now we are learning to recognize what our skills are, so that we can, you know, be as Michelle says, a bunch of self-led people, and that we can, I think that when we just investigate the potential of working together, explore the potential of, you know, maybe that there is a shared passion, there's a shared interest. You know, I feel like my main one is definitely the children. both the children who are forgotten and the children who are pushed out into the sides, you know, the ones that are stolen, and as well the star children. I think all children are star children, anywho. But specifically these very particular star children that have a mission and they're ready to do it, and they need us to protect them and give them the optimal space for them to become themselves. And I think that you know, this is an open-ended invitation, that when we become grounded and self-led and healed and embodied, that all of a sudden we have all of this space to really focus on creating that which we are most excited about, which probably ends up being, you know, finding land, you know, building community, building Hogwarts, you know. Doesn't that sound fun? That sounds great. That sounds fun. We could be a traveling band of self-led people, of course. It's emerging for me that working with men in the corporate world who are stressed out to the max is one of my demographics. Excellent. I love it. Yes. Just, I feel like when we shift into a multi-dimensional state of consciousness, so we are capable of literally doing different things in different dimensions. And I think that this is a really important thing because we are moving outwards. We are infiltrating the system. Like once we're embodied, then we're not scared of the false matrix, you know, crawling back in, then we can really crawl into it. So I love that idea. That sounds great. It's tricky though, because I don't know if those men really know what's coming for them. Right? How far you want to go? That's true. Absolutely. Can you explain that, Michelle?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Explain what in particular? That she's a 5'1"?
Yeah, why can she do it? Because she's a 5'1".
So the 1 can do step-by-step teaching. It can do the details.
That makes sense.
The 5, the 5 acts as the superhero. And the thing about the 5 is under constant pressure. Pressure. That pressure, look at Serge nodding, he knows. If you're a 5, you know about this. I was raised by 5. It's crazy. So the crazy thing about it though, is that under that pressure, they actually can live up to the projections people are constantly putting on them. So they get projected upon, there's this nervousness, this pressure, like, will I ever be able to do this? But then that pressure pops out the diamond, and that's why the 5'1" can always roll up looking perfect, saving the day. Which they can, but it's very, my mom is a 5'1". She had like an identity crisis because I remember she was talking to me when I was quite young. She's like, you know, so I feel like I'm different people depending on who I'm around, and I just don't really know who I am. And, you know, that can be really challenging. But if you understand that process, then it's a little bit easier to just see it as the journey that you're acting out and not take it as personally. And then you use your strategy and authority to figure out who you really are. You know, and you can know the difference between a false projection and a correct one that you want to embrace. But the beauty is, once you embrace the projection, it's mechanical. You're going to achieve it because that's how your machinery works. And Kelly is just like, she's a great speaker. You know, she's very charming. I could see her. And she also is compassionate. You know, and I feel like she would be balanced to work with them. So That's the great thing when the 5-1s are willing to do this work. Like they can ground. You were talking earlier about grounding into the body. They really have the capacity to ground it into the reality. And I feel like the corporate world has that like dense reality vibe, like, well, you got to be real with us. And the 5 can bring very, I mean, Ra-Uru Hu was a 5-1 manifester. And human design is pretty, you know, pretty woo-woo. And he brought it into, you know, now it's becoming increasingly popular in lots of countries. People know about this. The 5-1 can do that.
Thanks, Michelle.
Welcome.
That's a good direction to go in. I feel like working with kind of 3D or beings, working on these more seemingly 3D projects. I had 3 dreams in the beginning of this year in January, in which I made $2 billion. And it was very specific that it wasn't somebody giving it to me. It wasn't handed to me. I didn't just find it. It was that we made it. We created it. And there's a logarithm in the reality, actually, that it's like the more energy that we transmute, the more evolution that we bring in, the more of this, you know, awesome work that we're here to do that fills our soul, the more of that we do, then that we're creating this logarithm in the reality which we're getting compensated for it, because it seems like, at least in this now moment, we still need it. We need the money to buy the land and to do that, right? And I love to be in the reality where that wasn't the case, but I'm also not going to sit around and wait for it to happen, because then I won't be doing anything, right? And so when we look at the world, the majority of the trauma and the density is actually inside what we call muggles, lovingly. And so finding ways for us to be there for the people that we came here for is one way that we get to that energy. And so I'm really happy to hear that you're doing that, Kelly. Even with all of this multidimensional work, it comes back to translating this energy into language that people can understand. And in my world, that's working with mental illness. That's my back door. So it's good to find a back door to, I think that it is really important to learn this multidimensional work, because then everything that you do will be connecting to source. It's good to have heal to the root of everything inside us. So even when we're navigating through it, we're not, you know, entangled in it in any way. Does that make sense? It feels like complete energetic autonomy. Like there's no longer any confusion or any feeling of being lost. There's just total acknowledgement and focus, presence, right? There's not anything that you're confused about in the reality. And from this place, there's not any hooks or holes that any false thing can come into your system. Then you become a really efficient being. Superhero. I'm hoping that's making sense and that you can hear me okay. Somebody says that you can hardly hear me. Check the preferences. Oh, good. Deep breaths.
Hey Z, can I respond to what you were speaking about?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I had an experience last week speaking to my mother where I basically had to explain that, well, among other things, her consumption of alcohol basically creates like multiple personality disorder in her, because she she has conversations that she has totally forgotten about. So there's no holding her accountable, because when I try to speak about the part that said or did something while she was drinking, the part speaking to me now actually has no memory of that, because it's not the drunk part. So it was really quite a crazy conversation. I mean, not crazy, but if it were anyone else, if it were a client, it wouldn't have felt crazy, but it felt crazy because it's my own mother and I'm not her therapist. But what really struck me was how much this part, who I was speaking to in that moment, had literally no clue. And I feel like that's happening on different levels in everybody, because the things you're speaking about, we're going to be opening up a whole lot of awareness. And we're prepared for it, you know, but I am going to be a little dramatic about it because it's a whole lot of awareness. So to just know that there's people here they've never done IFS. They've never committed to doing this sort of integration work and self-leadership work in a group like this. And it's just, I guess I've been spoiled because pretty much all my social life is with people that we've also worked with. So like I have this shared language with people, and there's a certain level of communication that it just allows for like a very, very awake relationships. But there's still so many people for whom this is really new. And so as was, I think, Kayvon and you both have spoken about earlier, everybody here is kind of got to be the person that can do that where they've been assigned. You know, you're on this little area. If we took a picture of the earth, and we'd have a little dot over in, Hong Kong, and a dot in Belgium, and a dot in Florida, and everybody's been assigned to their little location. And the call is like, can you be present and be in compassion and also effectively communicate? So that's part of grounding it down as well. And it was quite an interesting experience. And I'm just grateful that I've done work with clients who really did have dissociative identity disorder. So like I kind of had some sense of, knowing how to proceed, but it's just really still astounding that there's such a huge gap in integration for some of us, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That band of amnesia. I'm totally of the opinion that everyone should be given the human design chart when they are born. KB was just telling me that he was in Mexico recently, and he had met a Mayan shaman, and they pretty much do that. They like, when instead of a birth certificate, he said that they would just give the child like a stellar design star chart reading of like the child's aspects and things. How's everybody feeling? Like to share? Serge is doing good. Everyone's feeling good. Feeling a little tender. Chris is on a cart, race cart. Kelly feels encouraged. Good. So we're just beginning here. Oh, I wanted to supplement these classes with a week with a sound healing ceremony. So on the off weeks when there's not a class, so next Thursday, at the same time, we'll do just a sound healing to help the energies integrate and things. Yeah. Okay. We'll sing another song, and if there's any questions, if you ever have a question or have something that you're moving through, just post in the group. Yeah, definitely want to just like open up the space today and not go too far into anything. Want to allow everything to stabilize so we have steady ground to work. But we will be getting into the juicy stuff next week, in 2 weeks. Endless fascination. See you next week for sound healing and on the internet and in the ethers anytime. Bye.